Hey everyone, my name's Christy. Welcome to my corner. Thank you all so much for joining me today for Flosstube number 11. I want to welcome all my new subscribers. I have a whole bunch of new subscribers this week, which is really fun. So thank you all so much for joining me, and welcome back to all my folks who have been hanging out with me these past 11 weeks. I love chatting with you, and you're just all so much fun. So thanks so much for coming back. This is a channel about embroidery and other handcrafts like needle felting, and I'm thinking about basket weaving, and I don't know, anything else I can think of to keep myself busy. I also do baking, and I do history videos, and then I do the history of like those things. So that's what this channel is about, and if those topics seem interesting to you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you join me on my crafting and baking and history adventures. I had a couple history questions on some previous videos, so I will get to those at the end of the video. And I somehow passed 200 subscribers in the past week, which is amazing and kind of blows my mind. And so I want to do a small giveaway just to say thanks for hanging out with me and maybe introduce some of you to freehand embroidery if you're interested. But I'll do that at the end as well, so stick around for that. But before we get started with like my normal programming, I have some big news. As some of you may have seen, a couple weeks ago, I posted a video which was a gallery tour of my local art gallery that has an exhibit called Threads, which is a fiber arts exhibit. And I have 4 pieces in this exhibit. I'll put a link to that right here, so you all can, if you've missed it, you can check it out, or if you want to revisit it, you can do that there. Well, this Sunday, so it's the 23rd today, so the 25th at 6 p.m. Central Time, there will be a virtual reception for that exhibit and a gallery talk from one of the art professors at my university. For the reception, all of the artists in that Threads exhibit will be there on Zoom because it's virtual, talking about our art and answering questions. And I haven't gotten a question list yet, so I'm assuming it's just going to be kind of casual chatting. You all can submit questions, or whoever wants to go can submit questions, and then we'll answer them and maybe talk about our work. If you are interested in joining and going to that reception, it is free, but you have to register. So I will put the registration link below, and you can register if you would like to do so. So like I said, it will be on Zoom, I think. I'm pretty sure it's on Zoom, and I'm really excited about that. I hope that some of you will be able to join and ask some questions. And like I said, check out that video because it's a really great exhibit, and there are some great art, like textile artists in that group. Other than that, excitement. Nothing else is exciting. I have been working and stitching and angsting. Is angsting a word? I don't know. I've been feeling a bit angsty and stressed out lately, so the stitching has been helping with that. On to the regularly scheduled program. I have a couple of small Stitchtober finishes. I have a new start that I had forgotten I was going to do, but I had planned. I just didn't tell you about it. I have some other whips. I have some fun plans. I have a pretty sizable haul, some of which I purchased and some of which was gifted to me by people in my real world. I didn't have any Happy Mail or anything like that. This is people who are in my life who are getting rid of things that they thought I would like because they know that I'm kind of a crafty person. So I will show you those things. I'll do the giveaway and answer the history questions to close us out. And this may end up being a long one, but that's okay because this is video. And if you want to fast forward, you can do so if something bores you. Okay, let's talk finishes. I am behind on my Stitchtober, but I have done, I think, 6 days. So I'm not actually much more behind than I was last week. I just never really get ahead. So on my old piece, so I have, this is turning into 2 pieces of fabric. And I think when last we met, we did these 2, which were Unearthed and Folklore. The next one, which since this says 15 on it, would be 14. Day 14 was bargain. And so I did a fiddle. Legend has it that the devil plays the fiddle or a violin, and this is best exemplified in the song The Devil Went Down to Georgia. And basically the devil then bargains with people, and so I thought a fiddle would be a good bargain, and this is modeled after my own fiddle. I play the fiddle poorly, we'll say that. Day 15 was fur, and so I did some more turkey stitch here. So we have a little furry guy, and then you lift it up and it's like little red eyes. I was trying to make this guy kind of spooky. I think he looks like a gray Oscar the Grouch. I don't think he looks spooky at all. But he does have fur, so that's kind of fun. That's the end of this fabric piece. So we'll fold that up, and then I will show you my new fabric piece. Day 16 was season, and I was trying to do something interesting, more interesting than like a leaf or I don't know. So I did a hurricane because I live in Mississippi and it is hurricane season, and we've had a lot of hurricanes this hurricane season. So I thought I would commemorate that with a stylized hurricane. Day 17 was preserve, and I was thinking of like, oh, I could do like a preserved human brain, or I could do embalming. I don't know what I was thinking. I couldn't think of anything spooky like that, so I just did strawberry preserves. But they're spooky strawberry preserves. Look how spooky they are. But I do kind of love my tiny little strawberries. I hope you can see them. And then day, what is that? 16, 17, day 18 was Cosmos. And I had already done a fun galaxy for Shooting Star. So I was trying to think of something interesting for Cosmos. And then I remember that there's a show called Cosmos and a book called Cosmos. And the show was re-released recently with Neil deGrasse Tyson. But it released originally with Carl Sagan. And one of the things that Carl Sagan said a lot was the word billions. And so he's kind of known as saying like billions and billions of stars. And so I just did billions and billions with some stars. And that kind of made me chuckle. And it's kind of an homage to Carl Sagan, who, when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s, was just a really interesting guy. And he was already old by then. I think he died in the 90s, but he was kind of cool. And then day 16, 17, 18, and day 19 is dormant. And so I did an acorn because I feel like an acorn is just a dormant tree. And this is my 3D printed hoop that I still need to send a message to my library and get more of these. So that's where I am. It's the 23rd, and this is day 19. I have more sketched out and planned through, I think I have 3 more planned. So I have through day 22 sketched out and planned. I don't have today planned. So I will have those for you for next week. I also played around with that wooden box that I kind of picked up last week and figured out what I want it for. That old cheap box, or that free box that I got, I stained it and sealed it. And then I painted the inside this kind of nice blue color. And I put a little handle on it. This just has wood glue, but I think I'm going to screw it in at some point. And what I was thinking is that I would use this for my pine needles when I start trying to make those pine needle baskets. And I thought that would be really fun. So I picked up some pine needles today. They haven't been cleaned, so they're in a bag. But I don't know. I thought this would be just a nice box for holding my pine needles. So those are my 2 finishes. My Stitchtober and my pine needle box. And this just lives back here for now. I do have a new start that I forgot to tell you about. As many of you know, I stitch the penguin and fish embroidery of the month pattern. It's really the only patterns, like hand embroidery patterns, that I buy, mostly because they're nice and fun and simple, and she's just really great, Alyssa Thomas, who owns Penguin and Fish, and I participate every night, every weekday night at 8:30 Central Time. She has a craft along basically on Facebook and YouTube. And this has become kind of a really important part of my day that I really look forward to. It gives me the chance to relax and stitch with other people. And they do a lot of quilting on this, like in this show. But once a month, for a week, we do the embroidery of the month together. And this week is that week. And so the embroidery of the month is the Bride of Frankenstein's bouquet. And I'll put a picture of it right here. And this is where I am. And I have changed it a little bit. I made it a little bit smaller so I'd be able to do it quicker. And the greeny yellow parts that I'm doing in the original pattern are dark gray. But everything else is basically the same. So that's what I'm working on. And I have my tiny little skull. My tiny skull needle minder. I have a ton of them. I've been making some needle minders lately, which I'll talk about more. So that is my new start and my whip. And this is still available until the end of the month. So I will put the link to that below. She also has some other Halloween patterns that I'll put the link to, well, that you can find on her website. Her website's not that difficult to search. But I'll put the link to this pattern below so you can check it out if you're interested. I have some other whips that you all have heard about. I have my Danse Macabre, which is coming along, whoops, nicely. So there's my Danse Macabre and my little needle minder. But basically all I have left to do is this guy here and then this area right here and maybe a little bit on the bottom, and then I'm done, because I'm not doing the top part because of an issue I had with ironing my sulky stick and stitch, which doesn't like being ironed. So I'm not doing all of that like arches at the top. But this is from Hans Holbein's Danse Macabre series, and this is called like the Bones of All the Men, and this is the culmination of all these woodcuts. And Hans Holbein was a 16th century artist, I believe. My dates aren't great, but he did a whole series of woodcuts about the Black Death, and basically the moral of these woodcuts is that death comes for us all, no matter how great or mighty you are. And so this is kind of the end, where it's basically a skeleton dance party. So I'm going to finish that. Well, I've been working on that, and as I'll talk about in the plans, I want to finish this. I have worked a little bit on Hildegard of Bingen's The Cosmic Egg. So I'll show you that. Last week I had finished the painting. This is all watercolor paint here. And I put a couple of stars in the firmament, although they're not done. Right up here, I started with the green in the clouds. So that's going to be kind of silk shaded green. I also sketched in with a chalk pencil, essentially a mechanical chalk pencil, the larger stars. So this is coming along. It's going to be a long process. And I think that on Tuesday, I may just do a quick video about Hildegard of Bingen. I feel like I've been talking about this piece enough that I need to talk about her. And here is what the finished piece will look like. So you have an idea of what it's looking like. I hope that made sense, because my camera, for some reason, I decided to put the camera on the other side today as opposed, so I'm always looking at the wrong spot. Technology, it's fine. That I've been working on a little bit. And I said last week that I wanted to, by this week, choose the font for my logo stitch. It'll just be this with Christie's Corner embroidered underneath it. in a black hoop with maybe a thread coming off and a stitched needle or something. I don't know. We'll see. My mom thought maybe putting a real needle in it would actually be kind of fun, since it'll just be hanging up. We'll see. We'll see what I want. But what I was trying to do was figure out what I wanted my font to be. I haven't chosen, but I have narrowed it down to 2 very different fonts. And I would love your opinion on these fonts. So the first one is more of a historical character font, which is right here. And the second one is more of a mod type font right here. So what I want to do with this is do different stitches to fill in the colors. So I wanted to make sure I had, not colors, to fill in the letters. So I wanted to make sure that I had something with a lot of like thick, chunky letters. And both of these kind of fit the bill. And I like them for different reasons. So I would like your opinion. And I'm not saying that like I will choose the one that gets the most votes. But what I find is that when I see what other people say, it actually kind of helps me solidify my opinion. So if you would give me your opinion down below. Number 1 is the more old-timey one. And number 2 is the more mod one. So that would be helpful to me, getting your opinion. And I do have some fun plans for the week. I want to finish my Dance Macabre. My goal is to finish that by Halloween, which is like next weekend, which, oh my goodness, where is time going? I don't understand where time goes. Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to finish that. I want to finish my Spooky Bouquet by Halloween, which shouldn't take too long. I want to, well, I'm going to keep up with my Stitchtober, obviously, and maybe catch up. Probably not. I'll probably still be working on Stitchtober in November, which is fine. And then I want to do a little bit more on my Hildegard of Bingen. And one thing I've noticed on my Hildegard is that it's actually really difficult to stitch through that paint because I made it so thick. It takes a little bit of punch to punch through that. So that actually takes a little bit of time, but I do want to work on that as well. Another thing I want to do is I have a friend who just passed her PhD comprehensive exams. I have this idea of a embroidery for her. It'll be just very small and almost all text, but I think she'd like it. So I think I'm going to do that as well. I have plans for that. She just passed them today, so I've just been thinking about it today. So those are my plans for the coming week. Yeah, those are my plans. Let's talk about haul. And I think I'm going to start with my free haul first, which came from 2 places. The first place I got it is my friend Nora. She is our Shakespearean scholar at my university. And let's backtrack. A couple years ago, 5 years ago, I got a grant to buy drop spindles and wool to teach my students how to spin wool for a medieval women's history class. Okay, I'm really interested in active learning and really getting students to understand what life was like in the past. And so I do that through activities. And one of the activities that I figured I could do fairly easily is spinning. That's why I have like a lot of wool. And then here's a picture of my bouquet of spindles that's in my office. Well, my friend Nora, who is the Shakespearean scholar, was teaching The Wife of Bath's Tale, which is from Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. And the wife of Bath spins, as all women did. And so she wanted to have her students do some spinning, and she borrowed my spindles. But I didn't have enough wool for her class. Well, I probably did actually, but I didn't know I did. So she bought some wool from thewoolery.com, and I think she bought the Heinz 57 just roving, and I'll put a link to that down below. It's good if you want cheap roving that's kind of easy for beginners to spin. Well, she didn't use very much, so she gave it to me, whatever was left over. So I now have a ton of wool. Well, a pound of wool. I now have another pound of wool. And what I would like to do with this is make a wool needle felting mat. I found, this is over winter break, but I found a tutorial for making my own needle felting mat out of wool. And I thought that this would be great for that. So I have a ton of wool. So that's exciting. And then my neighbor is an elderly woman who is moving, I think, to Massachusetts. And so she was getting rid of some stuff, and she didn't have a yard sale, but she basically was like having people come and look through whatever, you know, her stuff that she was getting rid of to see if they wanted anything. And so I went over and looked at what she had, and she had some cool stuff. She had a couple baskets that I got. I figured baskets are always useful. She had a roller frame for needlepoint, so I picked that up. That's in my car. I don't have it here. She had some napkins, very floral, kind of old-fashioned napkins that would be really fun to embroider on, and they're in the laundry, so I'm gonna wash those. But then she had this weird red fabric, and this is just a small piece of it. You know, she has yardage. She had yardage of this, so I picked it up and I thought, well, this would be interesting to embroider on. I don't know what I would put on it, but I'll put it in my stash, and maybe someday there'll be something that I want to embroider on it. So I picked up that. And then she had a little box full of paints, which I picked up. I'm not going to show you that because that's right here under things. The cool thing she had, which is in this container here, is dressmaker's carbon paper. Tons of carbon paper in all different colors: reds, blues, yellows, greens, which is great for tracing embroidery patterns onto fabric. And so I picked it all up. It's not great. I mean, it's old, obviously. I mean, so this one was what? This one was 60 cents. There were 2 packs. The other pack was 39 cents. I mean, you can see how old these packages were. I don't even know. If someone has a date on these things, I would love to know it. But I picked them up because these are great for not only tracing onto like normal fabric, but tracing on a dark fabric. There's a lot of white in here and there's a lot of yellow in here, both of which are good on dark fabric. So I picked that up as well. So I think that that's it from that haul. Then last week, Michelle Bendy Stitchy, you know, anyone who watches her, she always, or often, I don't know if she always does it or often does it, but if she hears about a place that's giving away free patterns, she'll tell you about it. She talked about a company that was giving away blackwork patterns. I've been thinking about blackwork for a little while. I follow the Royal Needlework out of the UK on Instagram, and they do a lot of blackwork on that. And then at this Threads exhibit, the cross stitch artist also does blackwork. And I said, well, you know, I'd really like to try blackwork, so why don't I go and get these free patterns? And then I also bought one of their patterns because I do feel like if a company or an artist or a designer is giving away patterns, I want to support them as well. So I bought this pattern, which I really love, but I'm not going to start with that. I'm going to start with one of the simpler free patterns, and I'll put the link to that below. It's from the Steady Thread, and I think it's just thesteadythread.com, but I'll put a link below. And so if you're interested in blackwork, you should check them out. Blackwork, of course, has to be on even weave or Aida. It can't just be on the stuff that I use for my embroidery, because that I don't have to count. And this is counted, which freaks me out a little bit, right? The reason why I don't do cross stitch is because I'm not good at counting. But I got a couple of 14 count Aidas because they had big holes. And I got white, and this is from Joann's. And then I got a navy blue, and I thought that I'll use the white for my practice ones, and then the navy blue I'll do for the one I purchased, which I really love, in my giant spool of white DMC, because I have like I have 2,100 meters of white DMC on that little guy there. And I thought that would look beautiful on this navy blue. So I got some Aida from Joann's as part of my haul. I also got some yarn This is all Christmas yarn. I got 3 different Christmas yarns because in 2 weeks, I think, I'm going to film a tutorial for you all on how to make a cute little winter hat garland with these cute little winter hats. And this is using this, I don't know, sugar and cream cotton yarn. But I wanted to try and see what it looked like in these other yarns. So I got these other yarns too. And so I'm going to do a tutorial and make some hats with you all. So I got that. I found some thread keepers at Joann's on clearance. I think I got this at Tuesday morning, but it's craft labels. Sorry about the glare. I don't know if you can read it, but they're hilarious. So this side are like leather look, and it says, I'm hooked on you. I'm assuming it's, I'm hooked on you. I'm assuming it's for a crocheted project. One of a kind, and it took for freaking ever. This one says, handcrafted for less than minimum wage. And then on the back, there are just tags. And these are like clothing tags almost, made with love. I like yarn and I cannot lie. And you better like this. It took a really long time. And then there's that one and that one. So I got these. They were on clearance and I found them hilarious because anyone who does handcrafts knows how long it takes to make something that may look simple, but actually took forever. And I think those are hilarious. I had to get them. I don't know how I'm going to use them. We'll see. My final purchase in my haul are 2 dimensions beginner embroidery kits. What I've noticed is that in the comments of my videos, I often have people who are saying that my work has inspired them to want to pick up their embroidery again or learn how to do freehand embroidery or learn different stitches. And so if you guys aren't lying about that, I thought that maybe you would like to win an embroidery kit. And so this kit has everything that you need to do the embroidery. It has the hoop, the fabric, a printed fabric, white floss, and a needle and directions. This is kind of junky floss. So I will include a nice DMC from my Cone of Doom, my floss Cone of Doom. And I'll also include a needle minder. I have all sorts of needle minders that I've made. And if you win, we can talk about what kind you want. I have semi-precious stones. I have sayings. I have animals, like all sorts of different things. And I want to gift you one of those too. And so I bought 2 of these kits. And so I have 2 winners for 200 subscribers. That's my plan. The deal is, it's like a normal YouTube Flosstube giveaway. If you are interested in winning, please subscribe to my channel, be 18 or older. I will ship it anywhere in the world, although if you're not in the US, it'll probably take a while. And comment below with the word home, because the kits is a home sweet home kit. So please comment with the word home and I will enter you into the drawing for this. And the cutoff will be probably noon next Friday. And then I'll announce the winner in my Flosstube, my next Flosstube on Friday. And please don't say giveaway in your comment because I want to give it to you, not to someone who has an algorithm or a program that searches for giveaways. So that is my giveaway. And I don't know. I hope somebody wants it. I guess if nobody wants it, I'll just give it to my niece or something in a couple years. But I would really like to give it to you because I want other people to start embroidering with me. I think that'd be really super fun. Anyway, so that is my giveaway for my 200 subscriber giveaway. Okay, now on to history. If you don't care about history, thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you next week. But for those of you who want to stick around, I just had 2 questions in the past couple weeks. Kat asked who my favorite king was. And this is actually a really difficult question because I'm not a huge fan of kings. And so I don't know that I have any that I like as people, but I do have a couple. I have 2 that I find very interesting. And so I'm going to tell you about those 2. The first one, and yeah, the first one was a Viking king, and his name was Harald Hardrada. And there is a King Harold saga. You can buy it by Snorri Snorkelson. And he was the king of Norway, Denmark, and Sweden, I think. And he tried to conquer England but failed. And this was right before the Battle of Hastings. So like 2 weeks before the Battle of Hastings, Harald Hardrada tried to conquer England and was killed. He also, before that, obviously, kind of was a mercenary in the Mediterranean. He worked for the Byzantine emperor. He married a Russian princess. I mean, he just has this really cool life. So I'll put a link to the Penguin copy of his life down below if you're interested in learning more about Harald Hardrada and reading King Harold's saga. The second king that I really like is an African king named Sunjata. And he was king in the 13th century of Mali in West Africa, the Kingdom of Mali in West Africa, which is in modern day, I don't think it's modern day Mali, I think it's modern day Sierra Leone. It's kind of where that was, and kind of Ghana area, but it's in West Africa. There's also a history of his life as well, which I'll put down below. It's called the Epic of Sunjata. And he was basically a disabled boy who didn't overcome his disability, but kind of like magically ended his disability. He couldn't walk for the first 7 years of his life, became this amazing king, conquered places. Anyway, he was just a really cool king. And so I'll put a link to him below. So I think those are probably the two most interesting kings in my mind at the moment. There are other, and I'm more of a fan of queens. I think queens are more interesting, and I do women's history, but those are probably my two favorite kings if I had to choose. Harald Hardrada and Sunjata. Penny asked a question last week about my video on the 4 great inventions of Imperial China. And if you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link to it right here. And basically, or here, I can't remember where they're going to be. Anyway, I'll put a link to it up above. And basically, I just talked about these sort of 4 great inventions that the Chinese invented in the ancient and medieval world. Penny asked a really interesting question that I think others have wondered too, because in the Middle Ages, in the ancient and medieval world, China was the most advanced civilization on Earth. And the question is, why didn't they go out and colonize? Like the Europeans went out and colonized and conquered people. Why didn't the Chinese do that? And the reason is because of something called isolationism. And basically, during the Ming Dynasty in the 15th century, mid to late 15th century, the Ming Dynasty decided that they didn't want any outside influence on Chinese culture. They had just kicked out the Mongols. They just conquered the Mongols or defeated the Mongols, who were the Yuan Dynasty. And they didn't want outside influence on their culture anymore. They wanted to they basically isolated themselves from the outside world. They had everything that they needed. They had all the good stuff. They had all the good inventions. And so in the mid-15th century, they basically closed their borders and looked inward and kind of improved their society. They really weren't interested in conquering people. They had some really neat exploratory adventures, but their goal wasn't to conquer people necessarily, at least not the Ming. And then the Qing eventually came over. The Qing dynasty was from Manchuria, and they kind of adopted the same view of isolationism. And this lasted until the mid-19th century. If you haven't seen my History of Tea video, I'll put a link to that up here. But that talks about the Canton system and the limited trading with the outside world. So Penny, the reason why the Chinese didn't go out and conquer everybody is because nobody had anything that they wanted. They had everything they needed, essentially. They saw themselves as the center of the world and of the universe. And I'm not saying that derogatory. They saw themselves as the best. And so why do they need to go out and get anything else? Whereas on the European side, they wanted what was in these other places. And so that's why they started taking over. So that's the answer to that question. And I hope that explains that a bit. So that is it from me. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you found anything interesting, please subscribe. Don't forget about my giveaway. Use home down below and don't say giveaway. And with that, I will leave you until next week. So please take care of yourselves and have a good one.